Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Mets Daily on the Fan Arch Network. John Saponaro here with you today and every day to talk about our New York Mets. But of course, before we get started, a quick shout out goes to our friends over at Kalshi for sponsoring the video for a limited time. Use the code FANARCHBASEBALL to get $10 when you trade 10. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're sitting at 4,000, just over 4,000 subscribers, looking to get to 5,000 by the end of the baseball season here in 2026. Well, don't look now, but the New York Mets have won another game. That's 2 in a row. That is winning a series. That is beating a team that is in a playoff position and looking fairly well and fairly competent in doing so. And like we talked about on yesterday's show, I know that the Mets, it's probably in their best interest to finish with a bad record, a bottom 6 record, so that they can have their pick protected. I understand that. I know that winning these games is irrelevant, but like I said on yesterday's show, I am not going to get upset if they lose because that pick being protected is important, but at the same time, I'm never going to root for my baseball team or my football team or my whatever team to lose. I just don't have it in me to sit down and watch these games and hope that they play poorly. So I'll take this win. I'm not going to throw the win back. I will say this game last night, not quite as squeaky clean as the game before it. It's a little bit of a messy game on both sides of the ball, or I should say for both teams involved, as 5 errors were committed across both teams. The Guardians had 3, the Mets had 2. It led to a few unearned runs. But you look up and you see, again, the Mets win a game in extra innings. They play well enough. They play well when they have to. They pitch well in spots. They get a couple of timely hits. They take advantage of some misplays by their opponents. And the Mets have a 9-7 record in extra innings. Again, it's not something we're going to get super excited over, but I like to watch baseball where my baseball team wins. And when you look at what the Mets have done these last 2 games, again, no one is going to lose their minds over it. Everybody knows where this team is at. I see people joking around on Twitter. Hey, what if they go on this run? Has anybody ever gone on a run after selling at the deadline the way the Mets have? And this is 2 of 20 in a row. And people are just having fun. I get all that. But you know what? Part of me has always been wired this way, to not root against the team. And part of me is selfishly interested in the fact that I have to do this show 5 times a week. And I'm not coming on here talking about how this team is just awful again and again and again and again. They've sold at the deadline. We've got 2 months left to go. I want to see the young kids finish strong. I want to see people like the guy we're going to talk about next succeed because they're going to be a part of the team in 2027. So I'll take the 6-5 win. I'll take the series win. And hell, later on today with Nolan McLean on the mound, you can bet your bottom dollar that I will take the sweep from the New York Mets. So let's hope they can do just that. Meanwhile, we have to talk about Jorge Polanco. Look, Jorge Polanco has been the source, and deservedly so, of so much ire from Mets fans. Now, a lot of it, I guess, is not his fault. He's a guy who's oft injured, who came into this season and immediately was banged up and missed a lot of time and has been bad since he's been back. Almost no rehab, playing on a bad foot with a bad wrist and a bad this and a bad that and whatever. The guy's trying. The guy seems like a good dude too, so I'm not trying to dump on him, but he has become one of the poster children, along with the likes of Marcus Semien and some of the people who aren't here anymore, Freddie Peralta, whatever, of the ineptitude or the perceived ineptitude by this fan base of David Stearns. It's the he's smarter than everybody. How could you let Pete walk and bring in this guy and this guy never plays and all of this stuff? Fine. Plenty of criticism to go around. But like I said, he is going to be a part of this team, like it or not, in 2027. He's making $20 million. I think he is going to be their DH. I think there will be some regression to the mean in terms of health. I think that this was a bad year all around for the New York Mets in terms of execution, in terms of health, in terms of a lot of different things. And I hope that Freddie Peralta finishes this year strong, and I hope that Freddie Peralta can be the force in the middle of the Mets lineup. Now, look, I don't want this guy to be the first baseman. I think the Mets need to figure that out, go sort out first base in a different way. But I do think that Freddie Peralta can be a guy who hits somewhere in the middle of your lineup, provides some clutch hitting, provides some power, and is a switch hitter and does a lot of different things well for you on a good baseball team. Why do I think that? Because he did it. He's 1 year removed, or he will be 1 year removed in 27 from doing that. He was a massive part of what Seattle did in their deep run into the playoffs in 2025. So it's still in there. He's got to stay healthy so that he can do it, but I want to see him succeed now so that he can succeed then. And it was a big game for him. He broke out of his 0 for 20-something slump, which was the longest streak of his career, and blah, blah, blah. He's 2 for 4. He's got a home run, a double, an RBI, a run scored. A very good game for Jorge Polanco. And both of those runs, obviously when the Mets win by 1, wound up, both of those hits, I should say, wound up looming large. But the home run early in the game, he goes back-to-back with Beatty to extend the Mets' early lead. And then he gets a clutch double that sets up the Mets to knock in another run later on. So all in all, a very, very, very good game for Jorge Polanco. And look, this is why I give the guy credit. This season is over. His numbers in the tank. There's nothing he can do to recover his numbers. This isn't even a situation where the counting stats, like home runs or RBIs, are going to matter for him, right? You look at a player like Lindor, and like Lindor missed so much time. His counting stats, the home runs, the stolen bases, the RBIs, those aren't going to be there for him. But he will have played enough, Lindor that is, where if he has a good run of baseball for a month or two, you're going to see certain things be representative of a Lindor season. With a smaller sample size, you'll see the slugging percentage, the on-base percentage, the batting average, the OPS, probably the weighted runs created plus, things like that. You're going to see, okay, he only had X amount of at-bats, but it looks like a Lindor season. That's what is on the line for Lindor. With Polanco, the counting stats aren't going to be there because he's missed, I don't know what the percentage is, but so much of the season. And then he hasn't been good when he has played. So I think by and large, a lot of his numbers are going to look really bad. And he could resign himself to just saying, look, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to collect the rest of my $20 million. And yeah, I'm a ball player, but I'll see you next year. Like, I'm going to try but I'm going to save it for next year. I'm going to try to rebound next year. This guy was out before the game, and Andy Green said he took 300 swings. You talk about extra batting practice. I don't know if that's a hyperbolic number, 300 swings, but the guy went out early, and he swung a lot in live BP. And I give him credit for doing that, and it's paid dividends. I mean, the home run he hit was an absolute blast. It was a missile out of the park in a second, and then he went the other way with a double off the wall. So, look, if this is the kind of 2-month stretch he can have, again, I'm rooting for him. I want to see him put it together because I want faith heading into 2027. I want to have faith that this guy can be in the middle of the order and can be a DH for the New York Mets. And I do think that he can be. I really do. This is not me trying to apologize for David Stearns. I think the signing was a miss, but I think at this point the Mets need to recoup some value. And when you have a completely lost season for Jorge Polanco, I think you have to hope for a rebound in the second and final year of that contract. Meanwhile, baseball season is here, and now you can trade every game on Kalshi. And you guys know what I do. I sit down to record, but then I hop on over to the Kalshi app and I see what I can find that is interesting, fun, or good value, or some combination of the three, usually as it relates to our New York Mets. And for the game today, I like under 6.5 runs. If you've never been on the Kalshi app before, what's cool about Kalshi is that there's a slider for things like over-under. And it starts at a certain number and it goes up to a certain different number. And each one over under has its own value assigned. So I click that slider over to 6.5 runs total in the game. And I think the under trading at 38 cents a share is really good value. So under 6.5 runs a game for the game at 38 cents a share with Foster Griffin on the mound, the newly acquired Foster Griffin for the Cleveland Guardians, and Nolan McLean on the mound for the New York Mets. These are two teams they personify offensive ineptitude. Now, they scored 11 runs combined last night. The Mets have put up 6 runs 2 days in a row. Cleveland looked a little bit more lackluster to open the series, scoring just 2 runs. But I think this is the game where it all kind of comes together for the pitching staff. The Mets pitching has been good. The Mets bullpen has been good. And again, these are 2 teams that have not scored a lot of runs this season. So $100 will get you $252 if you go with the under of 6.5 runs for the game. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there is no house, and as the probability changes, you could trade into and out of that position. For a limited time, you already know, but download the Kalshi app and use the code FANARCHBASEBALL to get $10 when you trade 10. Kalshi, trade on anything, must be 18 and over. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risks and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Now, we cannot get through this game without talking about Carson Bench, because Carson Bench has been on another one of those tears. Carson Bench has been on another upswing. First of all, he has an unbelievable catch early in the game where he runs, 2.5 miles, catches a ball at his hip pocket, running away from him, that's tailing away from him as he's running towards the wall. What an absolutely phenomenal athletic play. Of course, 2 days ago, he throws out the runner from right field all the way to third base on what was an unbelievable strike, 96, 97 miles an hour out of his hand, whatever. Guy's an athlete. Guy's a ball player. 2 days ago, he hits the monstrous home run to a spot where Kai Correa says home runs go to die. I coached here for a long time. Nobody hits a home run over that wall. You look up, boom, Carson Bench, 451-foot blast. And he follows that up today with not quite as majestic as a shot of 300 and whatever feet, but another home run. And now when you look at Carson Bench, homering in back-to-back games, putting together a really good season. We've talked so much on this show about where this guy has come after the first month or 5 weeks of the season and how he's rebounded and how the Mets have tweaked his swing and how he took to the tweaks and how he, listened and he made those adjustments at the big league level as a rookie, which is so hard to do. But now you look and he's sitting at 13 home runs and 17 stolen bases on August 5th as we head into play on August 6th. And the question now becomes, as a rookie, can Carson Bench have a 2020 season? Can Carson Bench hit 20 home runs and steal 20 bases? Now, there's an outside chance if he keeps this pace up, he could have a 25-25 season. But let's just go on the conservative end with the home runs, because 7 is a good chunk to go. I think the stolen bases, I think he'll get there. I think he's going to get 20 easily. He's only 3 off the pace. He's got 2 months to steal 20 bases. So I think 25 steals is not outside of the realm of possibility. But when you're thinking about home runs, for him to add another 12 to what he's done so far, that's going to be a tall order. So I think a 2020 season for Carson Bench as a rookie would be absolutely phenomenal. And hey, who knows? He might even do a 2020 season as a rookie. And I think that would be the number that I'm shooting for. 20 home runs, 20 doubles, 20 stolen bases. And again, he's already having a phenomenal year. All of the credit goes out to him for doing this, for living up to the hype, for adjusting on the fly, like I mentioned. But if he could get to a 2020 year as a rookie, and if he could ever add 20 doubles to the mix as well, which would put him over, when you factor in the triples, it would put him over 40 extra base hits for the season as a rookie. Man, what an unbelievable season it would be for Carson Bench. So the kid is obviously the real deal, and I love what he's done, and how could you not? But he just deserves his flowers, and now these are the things that we're going to track. 2020 season, well within reach, in my opinion. The stolen bases, he'll get there. The home runs, 7 is a lot when you factor in that he only has 13 so far. But I think he can do it. I think he has an outside chance to do it and make it happen. And let's root for the kid to do that. Finally, here today, the Mets' new look bullpen in 2 games looks pretty good. Now, the league's going to learn about these guys. Some of these guys who have come up, Jeffrey Yan today making his major league debut, or yesterday making his major league debut. 2 days ago, you have Nate Lavender making his major league debut. You have the return of Daniel Nunez. You have Chase McDermott come up, and he provides a little bit of a spark after the Mets get him in a basically minor leaguer for minor leaguer swap with the Dodgers. But it's early. I'm not getting giddy. I'm not getting over my skis on this, okay? I'm not going to try to tell you guys, like, that's it. The Mets have it all figured out. The Mets have it all sewn up. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to say that at all. What I am trying to say is the Mets are going to have the opportunity to get an extended look over the final 2 months at some of these guys. And some of these guys have never gotten chances before. Some of these guys are on their second or third chance, but with relief pitchers, you never really know what you're going to get. I mean, look at the way Daniel Nunez burst onto the scene 2 years ago and how good he was for the Mets. And now you look up and Daniel Nunez is 30 years old. And Jeffrey Yan has this unbelievable story where, he throws his first professional pitch at like 17 years old after he is signed like as a kid. And then he has all kinds of arm trouble and he's out of baseball and he's working these jobs and he's doing everything. 12 years later, he makes his major league debut at 29 years old. So look, what's going to happen with these guys? I don't know. But the Mets are going to give them an extended look. They deserve an extended look. Nate Lavender, a little bit younger than the other two guys I mentioned, but like these are guys who they've got good stuff or they have something that you can latch onto. And again, like I said before, this is something that I'm rooting for, and this is something I'm watching with vested interest, and this is something you should root for, and this is something you should be watching with a vested interest as well, because the Mets have a lot of open spots in their bullpen because they traded Luke Weaver, Huascar Brazoban, AJ Minter, and Brooks Raley. They have a lot of spots up for grabs. And not all these guys are going to be in the mix. The Mets will go out and they'll sign somebody. Maybe it's Adrian Morejon, some kind of big ticket free agent, and they'll add a couple other guys here and there, and they'll always build their bullpen the way that they do with a mixture of vets and some guys with upside and whatever the case may be. But there's guys right now that are fighting, in some cases, for their baseball lives. And I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them to work out. And you look at the game last night, Jeffrey Yan comes in, making his major league debut, 1 inning, no runs. Daniel Nunez making his return after Tommy John missing a chunk of time. He gets bit by the error, and that allows a few unearned runs to score. But 1 inning, no earned runs. He deserved better than what he got, for sure. Chase McDermott, 2 innings pitched, 0 hits, no hits. And then you have Daniel Duarte, who's been sneaky good with the Mets. Not only does he not give up any runs, he also gives up no hits. He's also pitching on back-to-back days. He also picks up the save. When you go back to the game before that, the opening game of the series with Cleveland, you have Duarte, Lavender, and Senga, who combined for 3 innings pitched, 0 hits. It's just a good mix. Like I said, you've got some big stuff. You got Yan throwing 100 miles an hour. You got Nunez coming back looking good. He's got good stuff. You got Nate Lavender, who could be a weapon from the left side. Who knows what McDermott's going to be. Mets get him for, Ben Rortvedt, who wasn't going to be on their team, and the Dodgers just needed a catcher, and the Dodgers DFA'd Chase McDermott. I'm not saying he's the second coming of Edwin Diaz or whatever, but again, you've seen stranger things with relief pitchers. Sometimes they don't figure it out until they're 30 years old, 31 years old. And they burst on the scene. And then from, 31 to 35, they're electric. Who knows? Any one of these guys could be the next guy of that. Now, again, they're not all going to be. Some of these guys will be out of baseball in a year and a half. That's just how it's going to go. But any one of these guys could very well be the next guy who came out of nowhere, and where were you when? And I'm excited about that. And I'll leave you with this for this episode today. Jeffrey Yan is a wild man. We've seen the viral videos, all of the jumping and the landing and the splits and the dancing and all this stuff. And in the minor leagues, it was fun and it was exciting and it was weird and it was quirky and it was cool. And I got news for you. In the major leagues, it's fun and it's exciting and it's weird and it's quirky and it's cool. Baseball's fun. Baseball's a game. Baseball is meant to be played with a certain type of vigor and childlike exuberance, and I love to see stuff like this. So when he strikes out the first guy that he faces in the majors and he does his dance and he does his jump, good. And when he gets out of that jam that he got himself into after, a couple walks or two singles and a walk, whatever it was, and he does his moves, good. And you know what? They talked to him after the game and he said all the right things. Because when the Guardians tied up the game, you saw Jose Ramirez in the dugout kind of dancing and doing what Jan was doing and kind of like mocking him and having fun with it a little bit. But Jan got out of his inning and the Mets won the game. So last laugh goes to Jeffrey Jan. And what he said after the game was, and I got the quote right here. They asked him like how he feels about the other fan bases reacting because the fans in Cleveland booed him when he did it, and how he feels about the other players and the other dugout reacting to it. And he said, I don't think about that. They can do whatever they want, talking about the fans. They're paying for their tickets. So if they want to yell at me or they want to boo me, they can do whatever they want. I'm in my zone. So that's a guy who knows that his extracurricular activities are not going to be viewed with, great amount of respect from the other team at times and the other team's fan base, certainly. But he understands that. And he's a guy who's just having fun. He's not trying to show anybody up. And you know what? If you disagree with what I'm saying here, just remember, this guy threw his first professional pitch when he was 17 years old. And it took him 12 friggin' years to throw a pitch in the major leagues at 29. If that's not cause for celebration, and that's not cause for excitement, and that's not cause for the dancing and all the extra stuff, I don't know what is. So, Jan, keep doing your thing. Do it. Don't let anybody tell you you shouldn't do it, because you should. That's going to do it for this episode of Mets Daily. Like I said before, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we're sitting at just over 4,000 subscribers, trying to get to 5,000 by the end of the season. We would love to do it. More importantly than that, we would love for you to be a part of our growing community. Until next time, I'm John Saponaro. See you tomorrow.